Question 1. During the daily Scrum, a development team member reports encountering a significant technical blocker that will prevent them from completing their sprint backlog item. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master to take immediately after this revelation in the daily Scrum? I. Take note of the impediment and address it after the daily Scrum, allowing the team to continue their planning. B. Facilitate a discussion with the development team members present to brainstorm solutions to the blocker during the daily Scrum. C. Direct the development team member to switch to another sprint backlog item immediately to maintain sprint progress. D. Escalate the issue directly to the product owner for reprioritization of the sprint backlog. Answer: I. Take note of the impediment and address it after the daily Scrum, allowing the team to continue their planning. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute event primarily for the development team to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog for the upcoming 24 hours. When an impediment is raised, the Scrum Master's role is to facilitate the meeting and ensure it stays focused on its purpose, which means taking note of the blocker to address it outside of the daily Scrum. Engaging in detailed problem-solving during this event would consume valuable time and distract the entire team from their immediate planning, which is not an efficient use of everyone's time. A good practice is to ask the affected members to stay for a quick follow-up after the meeting. Remember, the daily Scrum is for coordination, not detailed problem-solving. Question 2. A development team is struggling with understanding the definition of done for their product backlog items, leading to inconsistent quality and rework. Who is primarily accountable for ensuring the development team understands and adheres to the definition of done? I. The development team, as they are self-managing and responsible for quality. B. The product owner, as they are accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the development team. C. The Scrum Master, as they are responsible for ensuring Scrum is understood and enacted, which includes the definition of done. D. The Quality Assurance Lead, as they are experts in defining quality standards and testing. Answer: C. The Scrum Master, as they are responsible for ensuring Scrum is understood and enacted, which includes the definition of done. The Scrum Master serves the development team by coaching them in self-management and cross-functionality, and by helping them create high-value increments, which directly relates to understanding and adhering to the definition of done. While the development team creates the increment and thus applies the definition of done, the Scrum Master is accountable for coaching and facilitating the team in understanding and establishing these crucial Scrum elements. The definition of done ensures transparency and quality, making it a cornerstone of Scrum that the Scrum Master supports. Always remember that the Scrum Master helps the team improve their processes, including quality standards. Question 3. During sprint review, stakeholders express concern that the increment presented does not meet their current needs, despite being done according to the development team's definition of done. What does this situation most likely indicate? I. The product owner has failed to effectively communicate the product goal. B. The definition of done is too lax or misaligned with stakeholder expectations. C. The development team is not cross-functional enough to address all requirements. D. The sprint goal was not clear enough for the development team. Answer: B. The definition of done is too lax or misaligned with stakeholder expectations. The definition of done creates transparency for what done means, and if stakeholders are unhappy with a done increment, it often points to an inadequate or misaligned definition of done. While other factors might contribute, a done increment that stakeholders deem unsatisfactory suggests that the agreed-upon quality standards or criteria for completion do not sufficiently reflect their expectations. The definition of done should evolve to ensure that accepted work is truly valuable and releasable from the perspective of both the development team and its stakeholders. Regularly inspect and adapt the definition of done to ensure it consistently delivers value. Question 4. A product owner frequently adds new, urgent items to the sprint backlog mid-sprint, claiming they are critical for an upcoming market opportunity. The development team is becoming frustrated and consistently fails to meet sprint goals. What should the Scrum Master do? I. Coach the product owner on the importance of sprint goal stability and protecting the sprint backlog. B. Facilitate a meeting between the product owner and the development team to negotiate the scope of the current sprint. C. Inform management about the product owner's disruptive behavior and seek their intervention. D. Advise the development team to push back against the product owner's demands and refuse to accept new items. Answer: I. Coach the product owner on the importance of sprint goal stability and protecting the sprint backlog. The Scrum Master's role is to ensure that Scrum is understood and enacted, and this includes protecting the development team from external interference during the sprint. Adding new items mid-sprint undermines the sprint goal and the team's ability to focus, directly violating Scrum principles. The most effective approach for a Scrum Master is to coach the product owner on the impact of these actions on the development team's focus and the stability of the sprint goal, emphasizing Scrum's guidelines for sprint scope. This supportive coaching helps the product owner understand the value of a stable sprint and predictable delivery. Question 5. The development team consistently finishes their sprint backlog items early, sometimes even before the midpoint of the sprint, and then begins pulling items from the product backlog that were not part of the current sprint goal. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master? I. Coach the development team on creating more ambitious sprint goals and more accurate forecasting during sprint planning. B. Encourage the development team to use the remaining time for self-improvement or learning new skills. C. Discuss with the product owner about adding more items to the current sprint backlog to maximize utilization. D. Facilitate a discussion with the development team and product owner to agree on a flexible approach to the sprint goal. Answer: I. Coach the development team on creating more ambitious sprint goals and more accurate forecasting during sprint planning. If the development team consistently finishes early, it indicates that their sprint planning or forecasting might be conservative, leading to less ambitious sprint goals than they are capable of achieving. The Scrum Master should coach the team to improve their ability to select an appropriate amount of work for a sprint and to set more challenging, yet achievable, sprint goals. Pulling items from the product backlog not aligned with the sprint goal can dilute focus. The goal is continuous improvement in forecasting and maximizing the value delivered within the sprint goal. Question 6. What is the primary purpose of the Sprint Retrospective? I. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. B. To discuss the what and how of the next sprint's work. C. To plan for quality improvements and review team performance metrics. D. To plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. Answer: D. To plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. The Sprint Retrospective is a dedicated opportunity for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. This includes examining how the last sprint went with regards to individuals, interactions, processes, and tools. The outcome is often an identified improvement that the team can implement in the next sprint, thereby increasing quality and effectiveness. This event embodies Scrum's commitment to continuous improvement. Question 7. A development team struggles with consistently meeting their sprint goals. The Scrum Master observes that the team spends a significant amount of time in sprint planning debating technical approaches and dependencies without clear resolution. What might be the underlying issue the Scrum Master needs to address? I. The product owner is not adequately preparing product backlog items, PBIs, for sprint planning. B. The development team lacks sufficient technical expertise or cross-functionality. C. The team is not effectively self-managing their technical discussions and decision-making during planning. D. The sprint goal is too ambiguous, leading to confusion during decomposition of PBIs. Answer: C. The team is not effectively self-managing their technical discussions and decision-making during planning. While all options could contribute, the core issue described is the team's inability to efficiently resolve technical debates during sprint planning. The development team is self-managing, meaning they are responsible for how they get the work done, including making technical decisions and resolving disagreements. The Scrum Master should coach them on improving their collaboration, decision-making processes, and time management during sprint planning to enable them to commit to a realistic sprint backlog. This coaching helps foster effective self-management. Question 8. Who is responsible for promoting and supporting Scrum by helping everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values? I. The development team. B. The product owner. C. The Scrum Master. D. All members of the Scrum team. Answer: C. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is explicitly accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. They do this by helping everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values, serving as a coach and facilitator. While all Scrum team members should strive to understand Scrum, the Scrum Master holds the primary accountability for its promotion and support across the organization. Think of the Scrum Master as the guardian and coach of the Scrum framework. Question 9. During a sprint, a development team member individually decides to refactor a significant portion of the existing codebase, which was not planned in the sprint backlog, because they believe it will improve future maintainability. This consumes a considerable amount of their time, impacting their ability to complete their committed sprint backlog items. What Scrum value is being compromised the most in this scenario? I. Openness. B. Respect. C. Focus. D. Courage. Answer: C. Focus. The Scrum value of focus emphasizes concentrating on the work of the sprint and the sprint goal. By undertaking an unplanned, significant refactoring effort, the development team member diverts their attention and effort from the agreed-upon sprint backlog items and the sprint goal. This directly compromises the team's ability to complete their committed work and achieve the sprint goal. While courageous to attempt improvement, doing so without team alignment and within the sprint context undermines focus. Question 10. A Scrum team has been using Scrum for several months. During a sprint retrospective, the development team expresses frustration that they are constantly interrupted by stakeholders asking for status updates or making ad hoc requests directly to them. What advice should the Scrum Master offer? I. Encourage the development team to direct all stakeholder inquiries to the product owner. B. Suggest the development team set up a dedicated communication channel for stakeholders. C. Coach the development team on creating a "do not disturb" policy during work hours. D. Advise the development team to politely decline direct requests and refer stakeholders to sprint reviews. Answer: I. Encourage the development team to direct all stakeholder inquiries to the product owner. The product owner is the primary point of contact for stakeholders, especially regarding product-related information, requirements, and progress. By directing stakeholders to the product owner, the development team can maintain focus on their work, and the product owner can effectively manage expectations and prioritize inquiries, protecting the sprint from unnecessary interruptions. This practice reinforces the product owner's accountability for maximizing product value and managing the product backlog. Question 11. What is the role of the product owner during the daily Scrum? I. To clarify product backlog items for the development team. B. To update the product backlog with any new insights. C. To listen for impediments and assist the Scrum Master in their removal. D. The product owner's presence is optional and they primarily observe. Answer, D. The product owner's presence is optional and they primarily observe. The Daily Scrum is a planning event for the development team, where they inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog. The product owner's presence is not required but can be beneficial for staying informed. If present, their role is typically to listen and observe, without actively participating in the detailed planning discussion, as that is the development team's domain. The focus should remain on the development team's coordination and progress towards the sprint goal. Question 12. A new development team member struggles to understand the purpose of the sprint goal and how it differs from individual product backlog items. What is the most concise explanation the Scrum Master could provide? I. The sprint goal is a short-term objective for the sprint, while PBIs are detailed requirements. B. The sprint goal defines the what for the sprint, and PBIs define the how. C. The sprint goal is a commitment made by the team, whereas PBIs are merely forecasts. D. The sprint goal provides coherence and focus for the sprint, while PBIs describe the specific work needed to achieve it. Answer, D. The sprint goal provides coherence and focus for the sprint, while PBIs describe the specific work needed to achieve it. The sprint goal is the single objective for the sprint, offering a unifying purpose and encouraging the development team to work together rather than on separate initiatives. Product backlog items, PBIs, are the detailed units of work that the team forecasts will contribute to achieving that sprint goal. The goal provides the why and what of the sprint's objective, while the PBIs are the how or specific tasks to get there. It gives the team flexibility to adapt the PBIs if needed, without compromising the overall objective. Question 13. Which of the following is not a characteristic of a successful Scrum Master? I. Acting as a servant leader for the Scrum team. B. Directly assigning tasks to development team members to optimize workflow. C. Removing impediments to the development team's progress. D. Coaching the development team in self-management and cross-functionality. Answer, B. Directly assigning tasks to development team members to optimize workflow. A core principle of Scrum is that the development team is self-managing, meaning they organize and manage their own work, including how they achieve the sprint goal. A Scrum Master acting as a servant leader coaches and facilitates but does not assign tasks, as this would undermine the team's autonomy and self-organization. Directly assigning tasks is a traditional project management approach, not aligned with the Scrum Master's role. Question 14. The Scrum team is consistently failing to produce a done increment by the end of the sprint. During the Sprint Retrospective, the team identifies that external departments are not providing necessary information or approvals in a timely manner. Who is primarily responsible for addressing this organizational impediment? I. The product owner, by managing stakeholder expectations and external dependencies. B. The development team, by proactively communicating and pushing for timely responses. C. The Scrum Master, by working to remove impediments that hinder the team's progress. D. Senior management, as they own the organizational processes and structures. Answer, C. The Scrum Master, by working to remove impediments that hinder the team's progress. One of the key services a Scrum Master provides to the organization is leading, training, and coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption, which includes planning and advising Scrum implementations within the organization. When organizational impediments arise, such as dependencies on external departments that block the team, the Scrum Master is primarily responsible for working to remove these barriers, or at least facilitating their removal, to help the team succeed. This involves escalating issues, coaching stakeholders, or finding solutions to systemic problems. Question 15. A development team member proposes skipping the Sprint Retrospective because they feel there are no significant issues to discuss, and they could use the time to finish up some remaining work. How should the Scrum Master respond? I. Agree to skip it, but suggest a quick informal check-in instead. B. Explain that the Sprint Retrospective is a mandatory event for continuous improvement, regardless of perceived issues. C. Allow the team to decide, reinforcing their self-managing nature. D. Suggest a shorter, focused Sprint Retrospective to save time. Answer, B. Explain that the Sprint Retrospective is a mandatory event for continuous improvement, regardless of perceived issues. The Sprint Retrospective is one of the 5 mandatory events in Scrum, and its purpose is to inspect and adapt the Scrum team's processes, tools, and interactions. Even when things seem to be going well, there are always opportunities for improvement, or at least for celebrating successes and reinforcing positive practices. Skipping this event misses a crucial opportunity for continuous improvement and goes against the fundamental tenets of Scrum. The Scrum Master must ensure all events occur and are positively utilized. Question 16. What does "done" mean in Scrum, especially regarding the increment? I. All features are implemented and ready for internal testing. B. The product owner has reviewed and approved all completed items. C. The increment meets the definition of done and is in a usable condition. D. The increment has been released to end users and is generating value. Answer, C. The increment meets the definition of done and is in a usable condition. In Scrum, done means that the increment meets the definition of done, which defines the quality measures for the product, and is in a usable condition, ready to be released to end users. It does not necessarily mean it has been released, but rather that it could be released. This ensures transparency and helps maintain consistent quality standards for the product. The definition of done establishes a common understanding of what done entails. Question 17. The product owner approaches the Scrum Master and expresses concern that the development team is not delivering enough features each sprint. They ask the Scrum Master to intervene and motivate the team to work faster. What is the most appropriate response from the Scrum Master? I. Coach the product owner on transparency, inspection, and adaptation, and discuss how to improve product backlog refinement. B. Mediate a meeting between the product owner and the development team to negotiate expectations. C. Advise the development team to increase their velocity by taking on more work, if possible. D. Explain that the Scrum Master does not manage the development team's pace but can help remove impediments. Answer, I. Coach the product owner on transparency, inspection, and adaptation, and discuss how to improve product backlog refinement. The Scrum Master's role is not to dictate the development team's pace or force them to work faster. Instead, they should coach the product owner on how Scrum works. This might involve improving the clarity and readiness of product backlog items through better refinement, ensuring the sprint goal is well defined, and fostering better collaboration so the team can accurately forecast and deliver value. The focus should be on improving the system and communication, not on pressuring the team. Question 18. A Scrum team frequently finds themselves without enough product backlog items that meet their definition of done requirements ready for sprint planning. What activity is most likely being neglected or performed inadequately? I. Sprint review. B. Daily Scrum. C. Product backlog refinement. D. Sprint retrospective. Answer, C. Product backlog refinement. Product backlog refinement is the ongoing process of adding detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items. Its purpose is to ensure that items are ready for sprint planning, meaning they are clear, understandable, and adequately sized for a sprint. If the team consistently lacks ready items, it's a strong indicator that refinement activities are insufficient, leading to difficulties in planning and committing to a sprint goal. Question 19. During sprint planning, the development team realizes they cannot realistically complete all the product backlog items the product owner wishes to include, even if they work overtime. What is the Scrum team's best course of action? I. The product owner should remove the lowest priority items until the sprint backlog is achievable. B. The development team should commit to working overtime to meet the product owner's expectations. C. The Scrum Master should facilitate a negotiation between the product owner and development team to agree on a realistic sprint goal and selected items. D. The team should accept all items and address the overflow in the next sprint. Answer: C. The Scrum Master should facilitate a negotiation between the product owner and development team to agree on a realistic sprint goal and selected items. Sprint planning involves collaboration between the product owner and the development team to define the sprint goal and select product backlog items. When there's a mismatch between desired scope and capacity, the Scrum Master should facilitate this critical negotiation. The product owner suggests what to build, and the development team determines how much they can realistically accomplish, making a joint commitment to the sprint goal and the resulting sprint backlog. This ensures a sustainable pace and a realistic sprint. Question 20. Who is ultimately responsible for ordering the product backlog to maximize the value of the product? I. The development team. B. The Scrum Master. C. The product owner. D. The stakeholders. Answer: C. The product owner. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the development team. This responsibility includes the effective management of the product backlog, which explicitly involves ordering the product backlog items. While they may consult with and listen to input from others, the product owner makes the final decision on the order of items. Question 21. A development team discovers a critical bug in production that must be fixed immediately. The current sprint is already underway, and the sprint backlog is full. What is the most appropriate action? I. The product owner adds the bug fix as the highest priority item to the current sprint backlog, replacing a lower priority item. B. The development team pauses their current sprint work to address the bug, and the Scrum Master adjusts the sprint goal. C. The development team creates a new, separate, emergency sprint to address the bug. D. The product owner works with the development team to determine the best approach, which might include terminating the sprint or adjusting the sprint backlog. Answer: D. The product owner works with the development team to determine the best approach, which might include terminating the sprint or adjusting the sprint backlog. When a critical bug arises, it's a significant disruption that requires immediate attention and collaboration. The product owner is accountable for the value of the product and, in consultation with the development team, must decide the best course of action. This could involve canceling the sprint if the sprint goal becomes obsolete, adjusting the sprint backlog by swapping items if the bug fix is small and impacts the sprint goal minimally, or even releasing an emergency fix outside the sprint cadence if the risk is too high. The decision is a collaborative one, respecting the sprint goal and the team's capacity. Question 22. What is the primary purpose of the sprint review? I. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. B. To discuss the technical challenges encountered during the sprint. C. To review the team's performance against the sprint goal and velocity. D. To approve the release of the increment to production. Answer: I. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. The sprint review is a working session where the Scrum team and key stakeholders collaborate on what was done in the sprint and what has changed in their environment. Based on this, attendees collaborate on what to do next. The increment is inspected, and the product backlog is adapted as needed, essentially an informal meeting to maximize transparency and gather feedback for future sprints. Question 23. A development team finds itself blocked by a dependency on another internal department. The Scrum Master has tried to facilitate discussions, but the external department is unresponsive. What is the Scrum Master's next best step? I. Escalate the impediment to appropriate management, e.g., higher-level management. B. Advise the development team to work around the dependency and focus on other tasks. C. Coach the development team on how to directly pressure the unresponsive department. D. Terminate the sprint due to an unresolvable impediment. Answer: I. Escalate the impediment to appropriate management, e.g., higher-level management. The Scrum Master is responsible for removing impediments that hinder the development team's progress. If direct facilitation and communication attempts fail to resolve an external dependency, the Scrum Master must escalate the issue to management or other relevant organizational leaders who have the authority to influence the unresponsive department. This is part of the Scrum Master's service to the organization, helping to remove barriers that transcend the Scrum team's direct influence. Question 24. Who is responsible for tracking sprint progress and making daily adjustments to maximize the likelihood of achieving the sprint goal? I. The Scrum Master. B. The Product Owner. C. The Development Team. D. The Project Manager. Answer: C. The Development Team. The development team is self-managing and solely responsible for how they accomplish the work during the sprint. This includes tracking their progress towards the sprint goal and adapting their plan, the sprint backlog, daily during the daily scrum to maximize their chances of achieving it. The Scrum Master and Product Owner support the team, but the actual planning and adjustment of work within the sprint falls to the development team. Question 25. The product owner is constantly adding more details and breaking down product backlog items into smaller tasks during sprint planning, which often extends the meeting beyond its time box. What advice should the Scrum Master provide? I. Coach the product owner on the importance of product backlog refinement being an ongoing activity outside of sprint planning. B. Remind the product owner that the development team is responsible for breaking down PBIs into tasks. C. Suggest to the product owner that they should come to sprint planning with fully ready product backlog items. D. All of the above. Answer: D. All of the above. All the provided options are valid and interconnected coaching points for the Scrum Master in this scenario. Product backlog refinement is an ongoing activity, not just for sprint planning, to ensure items are ready, clear, refined, and estimate D. The development team is responsible for decomposing product backlog items into smaller tasks during sprint planning, not the product owner. Therefore, coaching the product owner on continuous refinement, respecting the development team's ownership of task breakdown, and the expectation of ready items before sprint planning are all critical for efficient sprint planning. Question 26. A newly formed development team is struggling with self-organization and frequently looks to the Scrum Master for direction on who should do what. How should the Scrum Master address this? I. Assign initial tasks to team members to demonstrate how work should be distributed. B. Facilitate a working agreement session to define how the team will self-organize. C. Encourage the team to decide for themselves, offering coaching on collaborative decision-making techniques. D. Provide a detailed workflow process for the team to follow until they become more experienced. Answer: C. Encourage the team to decide for themselves, offering coaching on collaborative decision-making techniques. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the development team in self-management, not to manage them. In this situation, the Scrum Master should guide the team to discover their own way of organizing and distributing work, fostering their autonomy. This might involve asking open-ended questions, observing their interactions, and offering specific coaching on techniques for self-organization, rather than stepping in and directing them or providing a predefined process. The goal is to build their capability, not just solve the immediate problem. Question 27. When is a product backlog item considered ready for sprint planning? I. When it has been estimated by the development team and approved by the product owner. B. When it is sufficiently transparent, well understood, and small enough to fit within a sprint. C. When it has been documented with all technical specifications and test cases. D. When the product owner declares it ready and moves it to the top of the product backlog. Answer, B. When it is sufficiently transparent, well understood, and small enough to fit within a sprint. A product backlog item is considered ready when the development team has a clear understanding of what needs to be done, has estimated its size, and confirmed it's small enough to be completed within a sprint, according to their definition of done. This state is achieved through ongoing product backlog refinement, ensuring that the team can confidently select items during sprint planning without extensive clarification or breakdown. The term ready implies it's actionable and well-defined for the development team. Question 28. Which Scrum value encourages the Scrum team to be open about the work and the challenges with performing the work? I. Commitment. B. Focus. C. Openness. D. Respect. Answer, C. Openness. The Scrum value of openness encourages the Scrum team and its stakeholders to be open about all the work and the challenges with performing the work. This transparency is crucial for effective inspection and adaptation. Being open fosters trust and allows problems to be brought to light and addressed collectively, which is fundamental to the empirical process control upon which Scrum is built. Question 29. A development team is struggling with technical debt, which is slowing down their progress on new features. What is the most effective way to address technical debt within the Scrum framework? I. Dedicate a full sprint solely to technical debt, without any new feature development. B. The Scrum Master allocates a portion of each sprint for the development team to address technical debt. C. Product backlog items related to technical debt are created and prioritized by the product owner alongside new features. D. The development team addresses technical debt during any slack time they have within a sprint. Answer, C. Product backlog items related to technical debt are created and prioritized by the product owner alongside new features. Technical debt, while often a development team concern, impacts the value and maintainability of the product. Therefore, it should be made transparent as product backlog items, e.g., improve performance of X, refactor Y module. The product owner then, in consultation with the development team, prioritizes these items against new features, balancing the need for immediate value with long-term sustainability. This ensures technical debt is treated as a product concern and addressed consciously. Question 30. Who is primarily responsible for ensuring the Scrum team adheres to the Scrum process and events? I. The product owner. B. The development team. C. The Scrum Master. D. The project manager. Answer, C. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. They do this by helping everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values, and by coaching the Scrum team and the organization in its adoption. This explicitly includes ensuring that Scrum events occur and are positive, productive, and kept within their time box, thereby upholding the integrity of the Scrum framework. Question 31. During a sprint, a development team member is struggling with a complex technical challenge that they cannot resolve alone. They are hesitant to ask for help from other team members because they feel it reflects poorly on their individual performance. What Scrum value is being undervalued here? I. Courage. B. Respect. C. Commitment. D. Focus. Answer: I. Courage. The Scrum value of courage means having the courage to do the right thing and to work on tough problems. This includes the courage to ask for help when needed, to admit when one is stuck, and to openly discuss problems without fear of judgment. Hesitation to ask for help out of concern for individual performance demonstrates a lack of courage within the team dynamic, hindering collaboration and ultimately the team's ability to achieve its sprint goal. Question 32. What happens if the sprint goal becomes obsolete during a sprint? I. The development team adjusts the sprint backlog to address a new, more relevant sprint goal. B. The product owner collaborates with the development team to determine if the sprint should be cancelled. C. The Scrum Master informs the stakeholders that the sprint goal cannot be met and the sprint will continue with a modified scope. D. The development team continues working on the original sprint backlog items until the end of the sprint. Answer: B. The product owner collaborates with the development team to determine if the sprint should be cancelled. Only the product owner has the authority to cancel a sprint, but they do so in collaboration with the development team and Scrum Master. A sprint might be cancelled if the sprint goal becomes obsolete, for example, due to a major change in company direction or market conditions. Canceling a sprint is a serious decision that incurs cost, as partially done work is discarded, so it is not taken lightly. Question 33. The development team is consistently unable to meet the sprint goal, and the quality of their increment is declining. During the sprint retrospective, they blame external factors and other departments. As the Scrum Master, what is your initial approach? I. Coach the development team on taking ownership of their process and identifying internal improvements. B. Facilitate a meeting with the external departments and the development team to resolve conflicts. C. Document the external impediments and escalate them to senior management for resolution. D. Suggest that the product owner lowers expectations for the sprint goal. Answer: I. Coach the development team on taking ownership of their process and identifying internal improvements. While external factors can be real impediments, the sprint retrospective is primarily for the Scrum team to inspect themselves and their processes. The Scrum Master's initial approach should be to coach the development team to look inwards, encourage self-reflection, and identify what aspects of their own work, interactions, or tools they can improve. This fosters a mindset of continuous improvement and self-management, rather than immediately seeking external blame or solutions. Once internal improvements are explored, external factors can be addressed more effectively. Question 34. What is the maximum time box for a sprint retrospective? I. 4 hours for a 1-month sprint. B. 2 hours for a 2-week sprint. C. 3 hours for a 1-month sprint. D. It varies depending on the team's needs. Answer: C. 3 hours for a 1-month sprint. The sprint retrospective is time-boxed to a maximum of 3 hours for a 1-month sprint. For shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter. This time box ensures that the event is productive and focused without becoming an endless discussion. The Scrum Master is responsible for ensuring the event stays within its time box and achieves its objective of identifying improvements. Question 35. A new Scrum team is struggling to understand the concept of a cross-functional development team. What does it primarily mean for a development team to be cross-functional? I. Each team member has expertise in all areas required to deliver an increment. B. The team contains all the necessary skills to create value in every sprint without relying on outside specialists. C. Team members are capable of performing tasks from different functional departments, e.g., marketing, sales, development. D. The team is composed of individuals from diverse cultural and professional backgrounds. Answer, B. The team contains all the necessary skills to create value in every sprint without relying on outside specialists. A cross-functional development team means that the team as a whole possesses all the skills necessary to turn a product backlog item into a done increment within a sprint, without needing to depend on people outside the team for core development work. It does not mean every individual has every skill, but rather that the collective team has the complete skill set. This reduces external dependencies and improves flow, enabling the team to be self-managing and deliver value independently.